These are 5 sleeping mistakes older adults make every single night that quietly wreck their rest, along with 3 fixes backed by research from the CDC, Harvard, and the National Institute on Aging. Let's get into it. Before we get to the mistakes, there's a myth worth clearing up first. A lot of people assume that once you hit 65, your body just needs less sleep, but that's not true at all. Older adults need the same 7 to 9 hours as everyone else, and what actually changes is how you get there, since sleep tends to become lighter and easier to disrupt with age. The CDC's own 2024 data found that only about 55% of adults wake up actually feeling rested, so if you're not one of them, you've got plenty of company. Insomnia remains the most common sleep problem in adults 60 and older, and that's exactly where we're headed next. Mistake number 1 is relying on sleeping pills, night after night, without ever questioning it. Here's the uncomfortable part. The American Geriatric Society publishes something called the Beers Criteria, which functions as the go-to medical guideline for medications that carry extra risk for older adults, and their most recent version, from 2023, recommends avoiding benzodiazepines entirely in anyone 65 or older. That includes short-acting, long-acting, all of them, and the reasoning is straightforward. These drugs raise the risk of cognitive impairment, delirium, falls, fractures, and even motor vehicle crashes, specifically in older adults. Even the newer so-called Z drugs, marketed as gentler alternatives, carry nearly identical risks according to the same guidelines, while offering only minimal improvement in how long or how well you actually sleep. None of this is some rare, occasional prescription either. One hospital study found that of over 10,000 patient discharges, 58% had received a benzodiazepine during their stay, which means the majority of patients walked out having been given one. And this is where it gets worse, because falls are the leading cause of injury-related death for people 65 and up. Over 43,000 older Americans died from preventable falls in 2024 alone, a number that climbed 51% over just the past decade. That risk isn't spread evenly across ages either. For adults 85 and older, the fall death rate runs more than 17 times higher than it does for adults 65 to 74. And when a fall doesn't end in death, it often ends in a hip fracture. Roughly 319,000 older adults are hospitalized for hip fractures every year, and most of those trace directly back to a fall. None of that makes sleep medication automatically dumb or off limits, and the National Institute on Aging is clear that these medicines can genuinely help in the short term. The mistake isn't taking them, it's leaning on them for years without ever revisiting that choice with a doctor. Mistake number 2 is treating alcohol like a nightcap that helps you sleep. This one feels harmless because, in the moment, it actually seems to work. Alcohol depresses the central nervous system, so yes, it can help you drift off faster, but that's exactly where the trouble starts. Research shows alcohol disrupts REM sleep at any dose, even a small one, and according to the Sleep Foundation, just 1 or 2 drinks can drag your overall sleep quality down by close to 10%. Here's the part that catches people off guard. Researchers at Brown University found that the body never adapts to this, and drinking on consecutive nights didn't reduce the disruption to REM sleep at all. One researcher involved in that work put it plainly, admitting we don't actually know if there's a safe amount of alcohol that leaves sleep untouched. A study from Henry Ford Health adds another layer worth mentioning. People who had a heavy drink before bed seemed to sleep longer at first. But a week later, when researchers checked back in, those same people were sleeping less and getting less deep sleep than before they'd started. The apparent benefit wasn't real, it just took a week to reveal itself. For older adults, that matters even more, since alcohol has also been shown to increase the number of breathing pauses during sleep, and sleep apnea is already common in this age group to begin with. Mistake number 3 is scrolling on your phone or watching television right before bed. This is the blue light problem, and it's backed by more than just a talking point, since a well-known Harvard experiment put it to the test directly. Researchers compared 6.5 hours of blue light exposure against green light of the same brightness, and the blue light suppressed melatonin, the hormone that signals bedtime to your body, for roughly twice as long. It also pushed the body's internal clock off by a full 3 hours, compared to just an hour and a half with green light. A separate study looked at people reading on a backlit device for 4 hours before bed versus people reading a printed book. And after only 5 nights, the device readers showed lower melatonin, less REM sleep, and an internal clock that had shifted by an hour and a half. They felt more alert late at night, which sounds like a win, except they were less alert the next morning. And that's the trade-off in a nutshell. Blue light convinces your brain it isn't bedtime yet, and you pay for that the following day. Harvard's own advice on this is simple. Avoid bright screens for 2 to 3 hours before bed. And if that's not realistic, dim lighting, especially red light, doesn't carry the same melatonin-suppressing effect. Mistake number 4 is drinking coffee or tea too late in the day. Caffeine's half-life, meaning how long it takes your body to clear out half of what you drank, ranges anywhere from 2 to 10 hours depending on the person, and for most people it averages around 5 to 6 hours, which means a 3 p.m. coffee could still be partly active in your system come bedtime. One review found that caffeine consumed even 6 hours before bed cut total sleep time by 41 minutes, and here's the detail that matters most for this audience. Research shows the body's ability to clear caffeine slows down with age, while sensitivity to it increases at the same time. Put simply, the same cup of coffee that barely touched you at 40 can hit very differently at 70. That said, the research isn't entirely one-sided. A large study of adults aged 50 to 64 found only a weak link between coffee and sleep disturbance overall, and oddly enough, some older women who cut out caffeine completely reported worse sleep than moderate coffee drinkers did. That's likely because people already struggling with sleep tend to quit caffeine first, rather than caffeine causing the improvement. And the honest takeaway isn't that caffeine is the enemy, it's that timing matters, and older adults tend to feel it more, so moving your last cup earlier in the day is a reasonable, low-cost change to make. Mistake number 5 is having no consistent bedtime or napping too late in the day. The National Institute on Aging's top recommendation for healthy sleep sounds almost too simple. Go to bed and wake up at the same time every day, weekends included, since consistency is what keeps your internal clock properly regulated. Naps aren't the enemy here, but timing decides everything. A short nap earlier in the day can genuinely leave you refreshed, while a long nap, or one taken late in the afternoon or evening, makes it harder to fall asleep that night and drags down the quality of the rest you do get. Keeping your bedroom cool, somewhere between 60 and 67 degrees Fahrenheit, along with quiet and dark, shows up again and again across sleep research, and if nighttime bathroom trips are a problem for you, which they are for plenty of older adults, cutting back on fluids in the evening can help with that too. Now for what actually works. Tip number 1 is keeping a fixed sleep and wake time, every single day, no exceptions. This stands as the single most emphasized recommendation from both the National Institute on Aging and the National Sleep Foundation. And the reason is simple. Your body's clock responds to consistency, not willpower. Tip number 2 is getting bright light during the day and dimming the lights, especially screens, for 2 to 3 hours before bed. This directly UNDOs the blue light problem covered earlier, so open the curtains in the morning, step outside if you can, and in the evening, trade bright screens for dim or red lighting instead. Tip number 3 is treating sleep medication or alcohol as a short-term tool rather than a permanent habit, and talking to your doctor about it. This isn't about fear, it's about revisiting a decision you may have made years ago and never looked at again. The National Institute on Aging itself says these aids can help short-term but shouldn't become long-term, and the medical guidelines covered earlier exist specifically to protect people your age from unnecessary risk. None of this requires a total overhaul of your life, just a handful of specific research-backed changes to how you wind down each night. If this helped you, watch this next.